Welcome to Refuge Freedom Stories, brought to you by Refuge Ministries Canada. For the next half hour, your hearts will be filled with hope as you hear real-life stories of people who have been changed by the power of God. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Refuge Freedom Stories. I'm your host, Johnny T, and today my guest is Jessica Morris. Jessica is an author, spiritual director, breast cancer survivor, and a huge fan of Jesus, who encourages others to reach deep into their souls to excavate the garbage and debris that get in the way of a personal relationship with God. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Johnny. It's great to be with you.
It's awesome to have you here. As I said, you are an author. I have read your book, Higher Powered, and I would recommend it to people. It really helps us understand, that life and death that we have to go through to build that relationship with Christ. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to start with helping our audience understand your journey of faith. Now, that's quite a vast and wide discussion based on what I've read, and there's lots of things there. But I think it really started with the fact that you sensed Jesus standing beside you at one point outside of a building, out in the cold, and yet you had that choice to turn towards him or turn away from him. As I read that, I thought that's something that each and every one of us face, not only at the start of our spiritual journey, but every day in life with different situations. So maybe we can start with that, and you can kind of give us a synopsis of how God reached into your heart and set your feet on this path towards him.
Yeah, we're just jumping right into the fire. I love it. Yeah. I was a couple years out of college and just in a horrible place of desperation and loneliness and despair, just terrible place. And I was really angry at God. My upbringing was not great with God. I kind of always had a wonderful feeling for Jesus. And at the same time, God terrified me. So it was just really, my dad was a minister and he was an alcoholic. And so there was a lot of abuse. And I just assumed that my father was God, because he was the minister. And so just naturally as a child, that's where it went. And it never went away. I always kind of kept that in the back of my mind. And I just happened to be outside this party, smoking a cigarette by myself because it was freezing cold, and just yelling at God and just really letting him have it. And not even caring, I had grown up believing that if you did that, you would get struck by lightning. I didn't even care if I was struck by lightning. That's where I was. And instead, I went from being cold to feeling a warmth sort of envelop me. This was very quick, by the way. Okay, so it happened very quickly that I became warm and I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt very loved and full of love. It was overwhelming. And I knew if I turned to my left, Jesus was right next to me. He was waiting for me to turn to him and hug him. And it wasn't just an apparition. He was there physically. And I immediately went from that beautiful love, warmth feeling to terror, because I had just been yelling at God. And so I turned and ran back into the party. I just ran. I didn't even look. I just turned and ran back into the party. And for a long time, that particular moment in my life, I had completely squelched in my memory, because I couldn't handle the guilt and shame that went with running away from him. And I spent the next many years just drinking that away and eating that. My addictions were food and alcohol. And I just went into such a hell. I don't even know how else to describe it to people, because like I said, when that situation started, I was already desperate, right? I was already yelling at God. And those 6 or 7 years after that, before I got into recovery, were worse than that despair, if that's possible. I mean, I became extremely suicidal and really can only point to like two things that kept me from killing myself: was my cat that I was taking care of and my older sister who cared for me pretty much our whole lives. And so I don't even know how it was the weeping and gnashing of teeth that I believe Jesus talks about. When you turn from me, this is what's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened.
So how did God reach down? I've said it before that sometimes God will allow us to go down a path that is, as you said, like weeping and gnashing of teeth, and it's just so desperate and lonely and empty and brings all those fears and anxieties and suicidal thoughts and different things with it. And yet he will just reach out and grab us by the scruff of the neck and pull us back. So, how did God do that? I know that you said that there was a time where you experienced God's peace, and that was the beginning of the end of you and the world as you knew it. So,
Mm.
describe
Yeah.
that to us.
Yeah. Well, through a series of events and different people that I believe God put into my life, and a counselor who, God bless her, said, I can't help you until you get clean. I'm not going to be able to help you. It's not going to stick. And I really liked her. And so I followed her suggestion and I went to a meeting, and I knew that's exactly where I needed to be. And I started to do that. I started to follow direction and I started to have some relief, and at the same time, I still was really angry at God. I was still like, why are you doing this to my life? Because I just kept, I think for me, I think of spiritual experience or spiritual awakening, because they are two different things. A spiritual experience, I think, is what I had with Jesus standing outside. It's happening right now and boom, A spiritual awakening happens over time where God slowly removes the scales begin to drop from our eyes, so to speak. And that's what started to happen to me in recovery. And I started to become more and more open-minded as people were making suggestions. Maybe you should go to this counselor, or maybe you should do, and I was introduced to a certified addictions counselor that never once told me or any of us in my women's group what his religious affiliation was. But I can tell you right now that he was Jesus with skin on. Whether that was what he was trying to portray or not, that's exactly what was coming through. And I mean, I have never in my life met a more beautiful, just gracious, compassionate, truthful, and I need to stress truthful soul than that man. He just did wonders for us in communicating God's love for us and at the same time, God's truth. Like, it's not okay. I was very arrogant, egotistical, all that stuff that I hated about my father, I had become. And those things needed to be chipped away as much as my shame did. Those things stand in the way of my relationship with Jesus on a daily basis if I don't continue to point at them and say, this is not okay. And so it was and his name was Steve, and it was with Steve that I started to feel like I've started to wear my cross again. Like, it's okay to really talk about this now. When we live in a society that almost kind of like looks down on Christians anymore, which is weird, because when I was growing up, it was everywhere. And I started to not care if people looked down at me. And I started to get this feeling like I want to go to seminary and I want to learn. I don't want to be a minister, but I want to learn. Like, I kept feeling this more and more, being pulled towards it. And when I finished that work with him, that was about a 4 or 5 year period. I just right at that moment, seriously, when I was leaving his office, a new chaplain was being hired where I worked. And I was running a luncheon where I worked, and I had to ask him to come do the invocation at the luncheon. And so I called him up and I said, here, and he didn't know anyone really yet. So I sat him next to me at the luncheon. He ended up, God is so good. I'm telling you, God is so good. He ended up being my spiritual mentor for the next 20 years of my life. And he was the first man of the cloth that I ever in my life trusted. He welcomed me. I'm sorry. His birthday was just 2 days ago, and he passed away 2 years ago. And so, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. He welcomed me back to Jesus and God, and helped me to recognize that God never hated me. Because that's what I thought growing up. This is why God put me in this house, because he doesn't like me. And so I have to suffer here, And for a long time, my connection was only because Jesus understood me, because his dad abused him too. I mean, like, that's how perverted my mind was in regards to that relationship. And this man helped me, and his name was Paul. And he helped me he was like the dad I never had. And it was like God was saying, here you go. I see you showing up. I see you seeking after me. I see you being committed to the good that people are offering you. And I'm offering you up this person who's going to help you find your way. And there you have it. I mean, I could go on and on, but I won't.
Well, it always amazes me how God steps into different points in our life, as we talked about along the way here. And it was interesting that you said you were kind of shaking your fist at God saying, "Why are you doing this to me?" And the enemy is so quick to turn that conversation around in a way that keeps us from God. Because in reality, we all have to come to the place where we say, "Why am I doing this? God, why can't I break free of these things to be with you?" And so on and so on. And you talk a lot about that rebirth of our hearts, and as you just did, to a better understanding of Jesus and his love for us and what he did for us when he died for us on the cross. And that shift from relying on what we know to who we believe in. And there's such a huge difference. You can understand and read the Bible and every Christian book that's ever been written, but if you don't know the author, it's all theory.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how you shared earlier too about, those years where I walked through that weeping and gnashing of teeth period. After I got sober and clean from the food and started to work in recovery and then went into seminary, and when I first had the memory again of that moment with Jesus, I recognized something, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying this, because I'm saying this for me. Okay. I'm saying this for who I know I was at that moment when Jesus came to me. Right. And I believe Jesus knew that I was going to run back into the party. I knew he knew, he knew that. And so, but he came anyway. Right. Because he wanted me to know also, I'm here. And I'm going to be here. And so that was always in the back of my mind, whether I saw it through my cat who kept me from killing myself or my sister. It was because Jesus was back here going, nope, I'm still here. And I believe that woman who was standing there outside that party, had she turned and hugged Jesus then and accepted him into her life, she would have become, and this is for me, okay, but I would have become the person who was 500 pounds, drunk on weekends, and praising on Sunday morning. And I would have been stuck there. And I know that is not what he wanted for me. I know that what he wanted for me maybe was to go back in the party and learn whatever lessons needed to come those next several years. Maybe I needed to meet some of those people. Maybe I needed to meet Steve, the counselor. Ta-da! I never would have met him if I had just turned and gone to church. And Steve really helped me to come to a place where I could forgive my dad, which I got to tell you, in recovery, it's a big deal to write down all your resentments and then go make amends to people. And my first guide in the program told me to make 3 lists of people. The first list is people you're ready right now to go. The second list is people, well, I'm not really sure. I don't feel comfortable with this yet. Let's do some work on that. And the third list is, I will never make amends to this person. And that was my dad. He was on that list, and I was able to make amends to him and forgive him. And that only happened because I was able to do that work. So I think all that needed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not going to surprise God with anything that we do or say or don't do or so on and so on. So when he stood beside you, as you said, he already knew you were going to turn back to go back to the life that you were still living, because he knew that you had lessons to learn. You had things to be discovered. You had maybe a heart that wasn't completely ready at that point to live that new life, that rebirth that would have changed you from, your addictions to food and alcohol and praising on Sundays, as you said, without that real victory, right? So his timing is always perfect, and always amazes me the ways that he reaches into people's lives to do that. And one of the things that you said that I thought was really interesting, the way you worded it, was to be at the mercy of our belief in Jesus. And I think that's so important, because it's all about surrender. It's all about surrendering, not just initially believing in Christ and giving our life to him. It's a daily surrender where we have to give each and every thing, even in the morning, we surrender, or in the evenings, whenever your devotional time is, we surrender that time so we can get to know God better and we can learn of Him and learn Him, right, within our own hearts. Yeah. And so how has that been part of your life in terms of how have you experienced that? You wouldn't have written a statement like that without having experienced that. So how have you seen that mercy of God just expressed to you in a situation or in a way that only that could have taken you through it? And we've already talked about the forgiveness for your father and things like that, but just in your journey and your greater understanding of Him, how was God merciful in a specific way to reveal Himself to you?
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to think of something in particular because it feels like my whole life. I think, when we live in addiction, we hurt a lot of people. And I'll speak just for myself. I know that I've hurt a lot of people. And the top of the list would be I've hurt God a great deal, and myself. And I've also mentioned my sister B. She's 6 years older than I am. And I do believe when I showed up, my parents were done. I'm the youngest of 4 and I was not expected. And my sister from the beginning, I mean, of course, I don't remember being born, but I'm pretty sure she just decided I was hers because she ended up taking me everywhere with her friends. And when she got her driver's license, she would just we'd just flee the house, all the time. It was just such chaos in our home. And in all the times, I know I hurt her. I know I hurt her over and over and over again. And her unconditional love for me is just, it's indescribable how I know how okay we are and will always be. And I can't put anything else on that other than the mercy of God, that she is able to, and it's real, I don't know if there's people who have more than one of these people in their life, because I know, my husband and I'm pretty sure my husband would pretty much put up with anything at this point as well. But she's been with me through it all. My husband's only known me sober, but she several times has said to me, like when I've gone to her and made my amends or apologized for something I did after I got into recovery and I just acted like a goofball, or whatever. And she'll her response is always, we're okay. We're always okay. And it's like, that's kind of how I feel about God. Like, Jessica, we're always okay. It's good. And I think part of that is that it is a personal relationship. Like you were talking about, it's hard to describe when I'm working in spiritual direction with someone. I need to hear their story first before we even get started. Like, you need to tell me your story with God, because this isn't about me and what I know about God. This is about helping you journey with your personal relationship. And if you're not there, get there. Find somebody who can help you get there, because it is personal. This is, Jesus, C.S. Lewis wrote this great line about, and I'm going to butcher it when I try to quote it here, but he said, if I had been the only man ever born, Jesus would have climbed up on that cross just for me. Mm-hmm. And if that's not how you feel today, keep seeking, because it will be better if you keep seeking. Yeah.
Absolutely. Jesus tells us if we seek Him and search for Him with all our heart, we'll find Him. And we have to come to that place that even if, let's say, we have a quote unquote successful Christian life, we still have to keep seeking Him, because we're all lost without Christ, and we can never lose sight and understanding of that fact, that without Jesus, we're an absolute train wreck, large or small, right? You know what I mean? So if people want to find out more about how you can help them, find out more about your book, Higher Powered, where would they go?
My website has everything you need. It's jessicalmorris.com. It has my books on there. It has spiritual direction information about what spiritual direction is, and a contact form. It's really easy to get in touch with me there. There's also some blog writing that I've done there, in addition to my books, that you can get on the email list to get my blog. That's mostly poetry, which I'm actually doing a collection of now. I'm hoping that's my next thing that comes out. So everything you need is right there in one place. It'll direct you, like, of course, when you click on the links to buy the books, it'll take you to Amazon, because I'm not a powerhouse that way. Mm-hmm. But everything you need is right there.
Okay. One final question for you.
Yes.
What's the one thing you would tell people about God?
One thing, oh, wow. There's no shame. He loves you exactly as you are right now. Like, stop diverting your eyes. That sounds so simple, but look to him and you're going to find everything you need right there. That's way more than one thing. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Absolutely. I agree 100% with you. Fix our eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face.
Yes.
As the old hymn goes. Yeah. Well, God bless you so much. It's been great talking to you on the podcast, and God bless you in all you do for him.
Oh, you too, Johnny. God bless.
Your love is extravagant. Your friendship so intimate. I find I'm moving to the rhythms of your grace. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. Your love is extravagant. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. Your love is extravagant. Spread wide in the arms of Christ. It's a love that covers sin. No greater love have I ever known. You consider me a friend. Capture my heart again. Capture my heart again. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. Your love is extravagant. Spread wide in the arms of Christ. It's a love that covers sin. No greater love have I ever known. You consider me a friend. Capture my heart again. capture my heart again. Oh, stir up my heart, oh God. Ignite the fires within, that my heart may burn for you and you alone. Be Lord of my life. You're my lover, my shelter, my Father. The only peace I'll ever find is in you. The only joy I'll ever find is in your arms, sweet Jesus. That I may live with you. Help me die for you. Let me rise with you.
I hope that you have enjoyed the last half hour. Thank you again to Refuge Ministries Canada for hosting the show. So until next time, may God richly bless you with peace, love, and happiness.
We at Refuge Ministries are so blessed by the success of Refuge Freedom Stories and podcasts. In addition, we focus on youth prison ministry, release kits, and many other diverse outreaches to the needs of our community. As a nonprofit, there are many costs involved, however, and we are asking for your support. Financial gifts can be made via our website at www.refugeministriescanada.com or by calling 519-701-0108. Your giving makes this work possible, and we thank you in advance for your support. That's 519-701-0108. God bless you.